Hello, Richard Carlson here, a CAPS community-based counselor, bringing you another video titled Thriving in a Crisis. I want to talk to you a little bit today about crisis, what it is, how sometimes it can cause trauma and sometimes not, and what we can do to diminish the impact or possibility of trauma, and how to really continue to thrive in a crisis. A crisis is an event that can be a single event, a series of events, or an enduring event that overwhelms our ability to cope, to emotionally self-regulate. It can be an experience that is a direct threat to our life, a direct threat to of injury, or a threat to our sanity, or it can be the kind of event that is indirect to us, that is, we can hear a story, a traumatic story, something that happened to someone else, that overwhelms our capacity to cope, or someone too close to us has also had an experience that's been so painful that it's overwhelmed our ability to cope, to self-soothe, and to make sense of the experience, make sense of what happened. It's important to remember that we've all experienced a crisis, or lived through a really challenging situation, and that we're going to live through challenging situations, but that we don't always get PTSD. There are factors that increase the likelihood of getting PTSD. This would include things like experiencing a previous trauma, mental health struggles, current physical health struggles, poor self-concept, not really loving ourselves, not having good supports, good connections and relationships, lacking resources or access to resources, experiencing and enduring constant racism and oppression for your identity, just to give a few examples. There are ways to prevent or to ameliorate or to diminish the possibility of getting PTSD while living through a crisis or experiencing a crisis. These would be things that we've probably already experienced, engaged in, attitudes that we've already had that have helped us feel better about ourselves in the past. What I'd like to talk about is, or review, are some of the things that may have helped us in the past and how we can re-engage them now. So I'd like you to just take a moment to think back over your life when you've had an experience of feeling really good. Could have been a month, could have been a few weeks, could have been a day. But a time when you were feeling connected, resourced, you were experiencing pleasure, support, joy, comfort. Remember one of those times. What was happening for you during that time? What was happening to you physically? Were you feeling pretty well physically? Were you exercising? Were you getting good rest, good sleep, exercising, having warmth, comfort, eating well? How were you mentally? How were you intellectually? Were you solving a lot of problems, managing things really well, pretty engaged in that area, in that category of well-being? How were you relationally? Pretty good supports, getting along pretty well with everyone? How were you creatively? What were you doing creatively in your life that was engaging your capacities? Knitting, painting, sewing, making music. What was happening for you academically or occupationally? What was happening for you? Where were you environmentally? What kind of space were you in? What was happening in that space that kind of made it nice and warm, comfortable for you? How were you emotionally? Where were you in relationship to all your feelings? Were you kind of cut off from your feelings, or were you feeling your feelings and noticing them, but not always overwhelmed by them? These are just a few ways, a few activities, a few perspectives that you might have had about yourself, others in life, that we want to re-engage in now. So I'd like to invite you to take some time to remember that time, remember what was going on for you, and then add in what it really felt like for you, what your sense was then, how it really felt, your experience. Was it the comfort, the pleasure, the joy? And remember the activities that were occurring at that time and re-engage them into your life. Mix them into your life now. Drop some of the things that aren't helpful. Remove a lot of social media, a lot of wasted time, and re-engage in the things that were helpful for you then that will be helpful for you again now. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for joining me. Take good care.